that we create tools and programs that really enable millions of other businesses to follow suit. So companies that don't necessarily want to get certified, or for example, for nonprofits that can get certified, can also use the BIA and the other tools that we create to join our movements. The fourth is that we foster communications infrastructure and narratives to inspire others to follow suit as well. And last but not least, we also advocate for legal frameworks and policy changes that are in line with our vision. Now, what most of you will probably know BLAB from is from certifying companies as B Corps. So you may ask yourself, what makes B Corps unique? There are actually 4 things that make a B Corp unique. So every B Corp goes through a comprehensive impact analysis. So they use the B Impact Assessment tool to measure and improve their impact over time. The second part is the mission log. So B Corps are legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on all their stakeholders, so not just their shareholders. The third is that it's a global movement. So more than a certification, it's really a movement of like-minded businesses who all have, who all share our same vision of trying to use business as a force for good. And then last but not least, of course, companies also need to recertify if they want to stay a B Corp. So every 3 years, they need to go through the process of certification again to really see if they still reach the 80-point bar to certify. And the goal here is really to continuously improve. And it's also in line with this continuous improvement that we're organizing this series to help you, if you're a certified B Corp or if you're an aspiring B Corp, to already reach more impact in the different impact areas. So since this webinar is focusing on governance, we really can't talk about the governance impact area without highlighting stakeholder governance. So I already touched upon it quickly in the previous slides when mentioning the mission log. But stakeholder governance really implies changing the foundational structure of your company. And this is actually what every B Corp needs to do in order to be able to certify. So stakeholder governance is achieved when, on the one hand, the purpose is anchored in the company's governance documents, and on the other hand, a legal governance structure is created that preserves the mission of the company over time. So this really helps you as a company set the foundations for consistent, coherent, and sustainable stakeholder and impact management. And then one example that most of you probably have seen passing by, because it was big news at the start of September, is the CEO of Patagonia, who gave away his company to a charity that fights climate change and biodiversity loss. So really making the Earth the only stakeholder, the only shareholder of Patagonia. We're not doing this alone, of course, because we're BLAB Benelux, and most of you are probably located in the Benelux, but the B Corp movement is a global movement. So globally, we have over 6,000 B Corps, in Europe, a bit more than 1,000, and in the Benelux, we already have 254 B Corps. Some of you probably know, like Too Good To Go or Alpro, but it's really nice because our community is very diverse, but all with the same unifying goal, so really to use their business as a force for good. And then I'll give the floor to Lieselot, who is a trained B leader and also the co-owner of Etiquette, and she helped us co-create this workshop and will now deep dive a bit more into the governance pillar. So Lieselot, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Jente. Well, hi everyone. My name is Lieselot, like Jente just mentioned, and I'm the co-owner for Etiquette. And Etiquette is a sustainability studio, which basically means that we help companies that know why they want to work on sustainability, why they want to create more social and ecological value, but are not entirely sure what the difference is that they can make and how they can bring this into practice. Well, and we, as a sustainability studio, we use the B Corp framework as a very valuable tool to help companies to become more sustainable across the board, so throughout the entire organization. And we're actually really excited, about the governance impact area. We think it's maybe the most interesting impact area, so it's good that you're here. But when you think of governance, and if you're like me, you've maybe Googled it a couple of times, governance, pretty complex term, also pretty vague, as kind of, sounds kind of boring. But when I Googled governance in one of my many attempts, I also came across the fact that it comes from a Greek word, like many other words. And I don't know if there's Greek people in here, but the Greek word is kouvarnao, and it basically means to steer. And I think this really grasps what governance is about, because if you arrange the processes of basically the system of your company well, then this will provide direction also for all the other impact areas. So what we want to talk about today is also, if you go to the next slide, Jente, of course, the impact area governance. And when you think of an impact area that steers everything else that you do within the company, then you also come to the crucial elements of basically any business that wants to be a business, a force for good, and that is the mission. But not just the mission, also how is this mission translated into goals, into responsibilities that enable other stakeholders, but also your own team members, to keep you accountable on you striving for this mission, and also that provide transparency on how you perform on social ecological topics. And when you think of the impact area governance and who should you make responsible within your company for this impact area, then you usually land at, for example, the CFO or the COO. And if you look at the assessment itself, then you see that within the governance impact area, there's 3 subtopics. The first is mission and engagement. The second is ethics and transparency. And the third is governance metrics. Well, the third one is not that exciting, because this basically is facts. It's just the numbers, your revenue, etc. But the first 2, these are super interesting, and that's also what we want to talk about today with the panelists that I'll introduce in just a sec. And if you go to the next slide, Jente, you may wonder, why does this impact area matter so much? First of all, because the governance impact area and how you have arranged the processes that together form your governance system really ensure transparency and accountability. And when we talk about sustainability, of course, this is crucial, because we can have all these nice plans and do a lot of nice talking, but if we're not kept accountable on us actually acting on it, like really walking the talk, then it's not worth much, right? That's not going to change the system. So transparency and accountability are key pillars of the B Corp certification. And if you want to assess a company, and assess a lot of companies that are in different sectors and have different focuses, different sizes, etc., then these 2 are of course super important in order to be able to assess them. What else, and I think it's even more important, is that governance and everything that is in this impact area, you've probably seen it in the questions in the B impact assessment, that really ensures that you anchor your purpose in not just the legal DNA of the company, but also in target setting, in decision making, and in reporting. And especially the target setting, decision making, and also anchoring the purpose in the company. Those are the topics that I would really, I'm really keen to ask questions on to the panelists of today. So I'm making the bridge now, Jens, to the next next slide. Those 2 slides you just saw, the B impact assessment has interesting features that will help you, that make it a little bit easier to navigate, but you'll get the slides and you can see those features in the slides then. So we don't spend time on it now, because now we want to move to the panel and hear from people, how do you put this into practice? How do you ensure that target setting, the decision making, that you have a clear mission, that you engage everyone on your mission? How do you do that? We'll ask Grégoire from Shape today on how they have implemented it in Shape. and also Joke from Tony Chocolonely's. Yeah, and I will ask you guys first to just give a brief introduction of the company, like in the month version. So in a nutshell, Grégoire, I'll start with you. And because we're going to talk about water and water efficiency, that's the focus of Shape, and also chocolate, I was wondering, Grégoire, if you could share with us not just what does Shape do, but also what is your link with chocolates?
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for inviting me today to share a little bit of my experience and how we sort of have put B Corp in our company. So the link with chocolate, well, I would say I love chocolate. I'm Belgian, I love Belgian chocolate, but not only. So I look forward to try new ones as well. But the link between, so maybe a bit about water then. So what does Shape does, right? So we founded Shape 5 years ago. We got certified at the beginning of last year, so in January 2022. And so today, in a nutshell, what do we do is we're a water efficiency company. So what do we do is we monitor buildings from different types of properties, could be large buildings, retail, public buildings, you name it, hospitals and so forth. So we monitor them in terms of water consumption with IoT technology that would basically have sensors that you put in your building and that would detect the water consumption in the building in real time. And from there, we detect different types of anomalies that could happen in terms of water consumption in your building, and we inform the building manager, the property manager, so that he can take action. So we'll basically most of the time detect leaks or anomaly that is caused by a widget or a machine that is using water. Yeah. And helping them to fix it as soon as possible. So this is very shortly, what do we do at Shape?
Yeah, thanks, Grégoire. So you help companies to get insight into how they can also become more water efficient. I hope you don't detect literal leaks.
Yeah, we do. So many, actually.
Okay.
You would be surprised. Like lots of water is actually lost. We estimate that on average 30% of the water consumption is lost in buildings.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a lot. Thanks for introducing. Joke, I think Tony's doesn't really, it probably rings a bell with everyone, but still, could you just briefly share what Tony's does and also your link with water?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Joke. I'm actually also Belgian, but I have a very American accent because I lived in the US for a long time. But with a name like Joke Aerts, you can't really pretend that you're not Flemish or a chocolate lover. Yes, I work for Tony Chocolonely. We've been a B Corp for 10 years now. So we were pioneers in that space in the Netherlands 10 years ago. And we kind of want to make a big deal about our 10 years this year because it's been a really valuable community of people. So really enjoy being part of this community. Tony Chocolonely, you'd be tempted to call it a chocolate company. We certainly do make chocolate, but what we make more than anything is impact. So we are actually an impact company that makes chocolate. I come from a nonprofit world. I worked for the Rainforest Alliance for 15 years, fair trade, very much palm oil, Forest Stewardship Council. It's nice to be, I mean, if the B Corp is business as a force for good, Tony Chocolonely literally exists to fulfill our mission, which is changing the norm in the cocoa industry. And the norm in the cocoa industry is rampant child labor and cocoa-led deforestation in the last remaining forests of West Africa. Most of the world's cocoa comes from West Africa. So we're trying to change that at Tony's, and we're also very, very aware. I mean, you were talking about defining a mission for yourself. Our mission is not just for our company, but it's for all chocolate worldwide. So the part that I'm a part of, I work for Tony's Open Chain, which is an initiative that started the same month that I joined, because that's what I've been doing at Tony's. Is this invitation to other chocolate brands to join us in this fight against changing the norm in cocoa. So Tony's Open Chain is an invitation to other chocolate brands to join us. And we have a few chocolate brands that joined us. They're not all B Corp certified, but we've got Albert Heijn that joined us, Yocolada, Aldi with Choco Changer. We have Plus here in the Netherlands that's joining with the chocolate range. And most importantly, and largely this year, Ben & Jerry's joined our mission. So that means that all of these companies are committing to farmers directly, long-term, paying them a price that enables a living income, helping us find and fight child labor. So we're happy to find child labor numbers because then we can fix it. So that's kind of our whole ethos is we want to be even bigger than just the company that we are.
Okay, thanks.
What
Thanks
is our link on? Yeah.
Your link with water.
Yes, the link with water. I come from a farming background, agronomy background, working with smallholders. Certainly protecting riparian areas and water management on a farm is super important, especially in areas that tend towards dry and arid or where desertification are important. And you need water to make chocolate, so we need it on this end as well.
All right, thanks, Yoka. And you already mentioned Tony's mission in between the lines. But how, if I walk into your company's office, how do I experience your company's mission?
You will see it everywhere. You will see it on the lines. You will see it in your on the walls. You'll see it in your onboarding process. We have a really fun, the first week you're a Tony. You go through typical Tony's time. You get a presentation from everybody on what their particular departments are. It starts with impact, and it's reverberated every time. I don't think we have a single team meeting where we don't start with what the mission is, what it is that we're trying to do, which is really great because, you know, the Tony's sales team, their job is to get Tony's bars on shelf, but what they're also doing is talking to retailers about what questions are you asking of these other chocolate brands that are on your shelves? What are you doing for your own chocolate mission? So the sales team sees it as an add-on and not something that detracts, which is a bit of a right? Because sustainability is what Tony's is all about, but it can't be our unique selling point because then we're not doing anything for our mission. It has to be something you share. So I really like that any Tony can articulate that to you.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, because actually also within the B impact assessment, it's not just about having a clear mission and having a mission statement and having a clear commitment in your mission statement on a social or ecological topic. It's also about engaging stakeholders on the mission. And these, of course, can be your own team, your own teammates, like new colleagues, but they're also external stakeholders, so customers, partners.
Your customers, which for us, we call them Choco fans or super Choco fans, you know, they have frequent calls to action. It's our partners. We call them mission allies. They join our mission to join the norm, the cocoa. Like your obligations are not just to pay cocoa farmers more, buy traceable cocoa, but now you go out and convince other chocolate brands, your competitors, to join us in this movement, because this is not something that we can do alone.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Grégoire, how is that for you? Because could you share your company's mission with us? Oh, you're on mute. We needed to say that sentence in this webinar, right?
Yes, so our company mission is to save water resources in buildings in a more simplistic and efficient way. So basically, we want to bring to our customers like a very easy to use tool that they can start saving water. So this is really the mission. Then how do we basically get people on board on that? So first of all, of course, the employees that they get this in their onboarding. Like we kind of repeat this message quite often. We also have like a bi-monthly meeting with the team that we always show the number of what is the actual amount of water that we saved collectively, because I mean, even if you're a marketeer or if you're a developer, or you all contribute to that mission. So we try to give them that sense of, look, as a developer or as an analyst or whatever your role, you actually contribute to that mission. So that's very important to us, and communicating that number, it's kind of our main KPI, you know, like liters of water, well, billions of liters saved actually. Now we even try to find an image to see how that could relate to something that you can imagine. So now what they used to say is actually the amount of water that we saved is 8 billion liters or something. So that represents a four-lane swimming pool between Brussels and Barcelona. Just to give you an idea.
Nice.
Now, what is also super important, of course, is to engage our customers. And why I say that is because we're just a technology enabler. So the customer basically has an app that tells him, look, oh, you have a leak or you have an anomaly, please fix it. But what is his incentive to actually do something about this, right? So in order to have that, we adapted our business model to make sure that the customer is incentivized actually to fix the leak as soon as possible, because it will be cheaper for him eventually. So we price our technology based on the water bill. So the lower the water bill, the lower the service. It's really trying to get, you know, incentives aligned, make sure that we will perform also on these leaks. And at some point, we also try to, of course, call him, hey, you're in top 50 of biggest leaks. Do you want to do that with them? So trying really to engage with them and make it a little bit of a gamification.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice example, Grégoire, because I think a lot of companies also struggle with like there's a lot of important things in the company and also a lot of important metrics, but which ones do we prioritize? And also how can we indeed incentivize our own people, but also our customers to really join the mission and make the mission come alive? Maybe a question to you also, Joke. Do you also have incentives for the people within Tony's on how do you say that? Do you have awards and etc. on people who contributed to the mission like most or the biggest improvers, or how does that work?
Yeah, we do actually. We have core values that, you know, Tony's are reminded of and evaluated on in our semi-annual reviews. Our core values are to be outspoken, speak up when there's a problem, to be willful, right? To lead the way, to lead by example, to be entrepreneurial, to come up with innovative solutions, and to make you smile. Everything that Tony's does is a little bit with a joke and a pun. Those are good things. Yeah, and we have Tony's of the Quarter idea awards. We have a few awards that incentivize Tony's to be the best Tony, mission-driven Tony they can be, but we also incentivize Tonys to be complete people outside of work as well. You know, so we do have scholarships also for things that are explicitly nothing to do with Tonys, but to make you a well-rounded individual. But I really like what Grégoire said about talking to customers and creating that sense of urgency to act, because if you have a mission, then it's clearly, you think it's an important mission. It's something that you want to accomplish. And you have to get others along on the journey. I love the idea of, I mean, if you make it visible on a bill that you're going to get a cheaper rate if you save more water, that's awesome. I'm working on that all the time. The lead time between a chocolate brand doing something about cocoa sourcing and actually stopping poverty is longer, but we have to create that sense of urgency, right? We have, as a human family under the United Nations, made pledges to stop poverty, to stop deforestation by, depends on where you are, 2025, 2030. That means action now. And that can be, you really have to touch people's hearts as well as their bottom line in order to get people into action on that.
Yeah. And then how does that work in decision making? Because you're also companies. I think that's also the beauty of the B Corp certification. It's for profit companies. But then if you're a for-profit company, and especially the system that we're coming from, right, that more the shareholder thinking way of doing business, do you ever encounter that you have a really tough decision to make? Like, you know, this is going to be more impactful, but this is maybe going to be better for business for now. How do you then deal with those kind of dilemmas? Grégoire, do you ever experience challenges like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think for us, we basically had to decide at some point whether we would go for a certain segment of building owners, because of course we have so many different buildings, they act differently, they have different water consumption, etc. But it kind of is still in line with what we want to do. So basically we want to have the biggest impact possible. So we decide to go for big buildings. So as I said, I mean, it could be retail, it could be hospitals, it could be public buildings, like really large ones. Eventually, sometimes the frustration is to say, yeah, but what about all these households? You know, like I would like to make them more conscious. But the problem is there's not much water to save. So also from a cost perspective, it's not so much interesting for us. So we had to kind of make our choice. Now, like the clear path for us going forward is really B2B, so large organizations. Well, our technology could work for households, but today, it's a matter of choice. So eventually we'll get there, I hope. But for the moment, it's really focused on large B2B.
Yeah. Okay, clear. And is that also, if you look at, for example, you have a mission of saving the most amount of water. So it's also about volume. It's about big numbers. That's why you go for B2B. How do you make everyone, or maybe not everyone, but how have you beleggen? How did you how did you make like are people or managers or individuals or teams, who's responsible for your social ecological targets that you've set?
Well, so the thing is, we have like a customer support that is really in charge of focusing on, you know, reducing that top 50 that I was talking about, you know, the top 50 of the worst customer. These are the ones that you want to fix early and get them incentivized and push them. So these are the ones that we're looking at on a regular basis, like every week, and say, hey, but who is still in there? Who can we fix? So that's our focus, and we continuously look at this and try to get that fixed. On top of that, I mean, of course, we also have different kinds of alerts, you know, like you can have water anomalies that can cause damages, and water anomalies that are just, you know, you have an open tap in your sink, I mean, just goes in the sink and that's it. So that's not only from an impact perspective, but it's also from a damage perspective. And there you can get the customer move much faster. If it's just a small leak, you'll say, well, I mean, it doesn't make a big impact on my water bill. Maybe I won't fix it right now. So it's trying to prioritize and to say, look, which are the ones that will create actually an impact if you fix it now or if you fix it tomorrow. Like when you have a cube of meter going out every hour, out of your tap, that's a lot of water, like 1,000 liters every hour. So these are the kind of leaks that happen, especially in the winter when you have like, it's freezing outside and then suddenly, you know, the pipes breaks and then it goes all out. Those are the ones when you get to be super reactive and you help them save immense amount of water. And even sometimes they're not even aware, because usually, like just taking an example, like a big store that have a big parking lot in front, maybe the pipes are below the parking lot, so they will only see the leak when the parking lot collapses because there is like a, you know, like erosion below. If you can tell them this within a few minutes, then they can do something about it, and they think, okay, well, actually, I will save on water, I will save on damages in my parking, I will save on all the potential problems that can occur on top of that.
Yeah, but do you then internally in your company in Shape, do you have some kind of a target on getting this top 50 to act? Is there anything like, how do you keep track of this?
I mean, we don't have like a precise target. It's actually just increasing over time because we equip more and more buildings. So we're in very growth phase. So it's really hard to give us like a concrete target. It's more like getting them fixed within, I would say, 30 days. Well, actually, this is the target. It's within those 30 days that we want to get it fixed. Usually it's less, but those long-lasting leaks sometimes stay long.
Yeah, and is someone within the company responsible for this particularly? Because we noticed that
that's customer support.
Customer support. Yeah, because it's up to them to really convey the message and create a sense of urgency and get them to act within 30 days then.
But actually everyone is accountable, because customer support is of course first line, but you know, like developers, they try to add some features towards that. You have the sales that try to, you know, get the customer more incentive, or at least aware of what does that mean. So it's kind of a team effort. But also trying to get the customer understand, especially like large customers that are on stock market, they have to report on several ESG KPIs. They get the reporting from us, but of course the reporting is not going to be in their favor if we show the wrong numbers. So it's kind of always pushing on. You have different things you can push on to incentivize them to move. Yeah,
I think it's I hear you, Gregor. The thing is that sometimes we notice that companies, if everyone's engaged on a mission, that's great, right? If everyone feels like I want to contribute to either like get the whole cacao industry moving, the whole chocolate industry, or to really ramp up this number of water that we've saved together. But however, sometimes if everyone's held accountable, then maybe no one's held accountable, right?
No, I understand. I mean, the accountable part is really customer support. But I'm just saying, I mean, everyone can contribute to that efficiency. Yeah, definitely. Efficiency target.
Yeah, and it's great if also people in roles that are not that have a less clear link with that can still see that how they're contributing. I think that's great. Yoka, how is that within Tony's? Because you have a really clear roadmap. You have also quantified a lot of your targets. Do you have managers that, for example, really are held responsible and also rewarded based on their contribution to your impact metrics?
Yeah, Tessa had a question very similar to that, right? Like how is the incentive to improve or to inspire to act or to achieve our mission in leadership on all levels, right? Not just senior leadership. Yeah, so we have KPI targets. We have KPIs and non-financial KPIs that we very openly report on every year. And we have some serious goals there in terms of the non-financial, which is impact stuff that if we were to miss that, it would be a collective upset. And it's around, you know, percentage of traceability. It's around paying a higher price. It's around child labor found, but also remediated. So everybody knows those numbers. When the annual report is published, we quiz everybody on it. We make it a lot of fun.
That's a good one.
I think it'd be hard pressed to find a Tony who can't tell you our non-financial KPIs and some of the impact stuff that we did this year. We have a new CEO at Tony's as of this year. He came to us from Innocent Drinks, where he was for 15 years. He's now CEO of Tony's. It's interesting to have always a fresh new perspective at the top. In fact, that's another thing we do at Tony's is we have fresh look. If you've been at Tony's for 3 months, you reflect on what's it like to work at Tony's. And because, yeah, you might come from a different culture in a different place. But I was talking to Douglas about it, and he was like, yeah, you really have to link senior leadership to something bigger than just what they are responsible for, because otherwise you will get people like, for example, country managers in charge of their own golden markets being solely focused on here when really it's what's happening here that is super important. So that means linking some of their goals to the collective. And that means that sometimes, you know, we had a big supply chain in the summer when the Baikalabat factory had the salmonella outbreak and we had no chocolate coming to us for a while. Markets had to, you know, we said, okay, we're going to prioritize UK market. Sorry, German market, you're going to have some empty shelves. And that was just a sacrifice the German team had to make because it's here that our KPIs are both financial and non-financial. And the way the reviews are written and the way managers speak to their team about it, it is with that upward and downward focus.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So then there's not just, of course, there's the yearly, the jaarverslag, right? The jaarverslag.
Our annual fair report. Yep.
Yeah, but there's also meetings then, for example, that you have with management to continuously see the bigger picture, or is this like a company update every once in a while? How do you do this?
Yeah, I mean, but we do goal setting just like any other company, but aligning our objectives. Thanks, Paul. Aligning our objectives both up and down and in alignment with our mission is just part of every review, every plan set.
Yeah. And do you know whether this has been a process? Because companies that aren't there yet, like literally clients sometimes mention to us, yeah, I mean, we're not like Tony's, because Tony's is really well known as a super purpose-driven company and it's embedded throughout all the corners of the companies. Of the company, but then for companies that are not there yet, do you have an idea of how they could start making a mission also super concrete, have these financial, non-financial KPIs that are next to each other?
I mean, probably most companies that are doing well are to do some type of evaluation moment, either of their people, of a particular project, of an initiative, of a product for customers. Even your office, or you know, your look and feel. And if you can articulate your vision and your mission, and then in each evaluation in any of those things, you know, evaluate your lunch. We even went vegan at Tony's because we said eating meat is not in line with our company values. Not everybody was excited about that. But anytime you have an evaluation moment, if you can link it to the vision and the purpose of your company, if you start getting that practice under your belt, you will get there. And I've been here for 4 years, which is like a gajillion years in Tony's years. We're a very young company that moves. We've had lots of different evaluation things, some more successful, some not, but keep linking it to your vision and your purpose. And from there, you know, the logical choices come.
Yeah. So do you feel like at Shape you've also got this under your belt, Grégoire? Is this something that's continuously developing also within Shape?
Yeah, so of course, I mean, I talked about saving water, but it's really part of the mindset of the whole company to say, okay, let's be in line with what is the impact that we can make at all levels. So they're not only, you know, the water saving that comes into place, but it's also about, okay, how do we act? How do we organize the working space? How do we organize, you know, different technical, even technical choices? Just to give you an example, like our IoT system. I mean, we could have sold it out and say, okay, good. This is just another widget that we would sell, and that goes out of the balance sheet and to the customer. But we decided, no, I mean, we would rent it out, and basically at the end of its life, we want to refurbish it, and we want to keep it, you know, under our control, so that we can make sure that we can not make more, you know, waste out of it. So this is really part of embedded in the culture, and we have, like, I would say those two sort of bi-monthly meeting where we call this town hall meetings, where we discuss all this within the company. And we were still a small company, so we can have everyone gathered in one room, and then we discuss these old challenges. We can make sure that everyone commits to that, and once I mean, if there is an open question, then we would tackle it at that moment.
Yeah, and how do you ensure that people commit to that? Do you really ask explicitly for their commitment, or do people just speak up if they're not?
People would speak up, and then eventually we get to a common decision. Okay, say let's go that way. Yeah, I mean, it's really natural. It's not like a formal decision-making process. I mean, I think this is the sort of what is quite easy when you're a very flexible company. You can eventually have the notes or have a conclusion, send it out to everyone, say, hey, so we had that meeting, this was a question, see what we decided and why.
Yeah, and then because these bi-monthly town halls then also help in terms of transparency. Where are we going as a company? How have we been performing? How do you do that to the external stakeholders?
So we have a classical reporting tool that we use for investors, for instance. So we have board members, investors, general assembly. I mean, different kind of instances where we report on a different frequency depending on who. But then we would provide them different KPIs that are related to the main areas of the business. But we try to be very holistic in the way we communicate about this, whether it's development, as I mentioned, whether it's operations, whether it's these choices. I would say more like, it's not just a number. I mean, it's really like decisions that are embedded in the culture of the company. We try to communicate on to show, okay, are we in line actually with what we want to do? Yeah,
nice. And then also towards investors. They're also engaged on the mission, and then these impact metrics, they also get those. Are they as important to them as financial metrics? What do you notice?
Yeah, so well, actually, so we were certified after we got this investor on board. So the investor were on board before, and those are more like classical financial VCs that are driven by a company that would grow and that would make more profit. So in the beginning, we're telling them about these initiatives of, you know, looking into the B Corp and applying and actually even embedded in the statute of the company. So they were like a bit surprised. Oh, did it go to that level? And we said, yeah. But as founders, we really want this to be part of the company and the face of the company to the whole stakeholders around the company. They accepted, and yes, we continue reporting on KPIs, our impact KPIs. We also decided at the board level to have like a very good equilibrium or balance between the people represented. So we would have 5 people on the board, 2 who are representing the founders, 2 who are representing the investor, and 1 who is completely independent, and who basically can only think about the good of the company without having any stakes, any shares of the company. So the person is really just doing her best to make sure that the company goes in the right direction. And we thought it was really like a good balance for decision making as well, to make sure that we take the good decisions.
Yeah, you take all the perspectives into consideration as well. All right, thanks. Well, we've now got a little bit of a feel of the mission of both your companies, how you keep this alive. You also gave some practical examples of how you can engage, for example, your own team on the mission, but also, like you mentioned, Joka, external stakeholders, super important to get them on board as well, because that's what you need to really accomplish your higher goal, right? We also touched a little bit on decision-making and prioritizing impact there, and a little bit on impact metrics also. I'm also curious to see, I think Mattia, you also kept an eye on the chat, because I'm fairly sure that people have questions to both Grégoire and Joka.
I kept an eye and a hand on the chat, so I put a couple of questions there, and we just have another question from Boriana. So,
yeah. So is there one
a couple of questions? Let's Boriana first. Then, what is the process of goal setting within the organization? This is a question to Joka. Is it co-creation, top down, ...
Yeah, and that actually relates to a question a little earlier about what are the tricky internal challenges for companies when the mission's widespread, or all the teams on the same page at the same time, or how do you go about achieving the mission? So I think those two questions are related, because the answer is the same, which is, again, your vision, purpose, what it is that you're trying to achieve with a company. And I think, honestly, core values are really important in that as well, because they're kind of like the signpost or the box, like we want to act within this area of action to see this vision and purpose. That's the what, but it doesn't answer the how. And yeah, I mean, different managers have different styles, but I think that a lot of it is left up. You have to put the teams in place who are going to do the best possible job to deliver the how in order to answer the what. So it is, of course, co-creation. It's definitely not top down. I think it's, if anything, within Tony's, we do more bottom up towards the mission, but good management and good leadership makes a cohesive whole of that a little bit. So, for Tony's Open Chain, which used to be a one-person job, but this idea of inviting other chocolate brands in, I'm now part of a management team of 4. So we have somebody in charge of operations, somebody's doing the impact stuff. And we all made our goals for this year, and we're looking at it like, okay, this kind of comes up to a collective vision, but I think next year will be even better about not 4 different teams making goals towards one mission, but those goals making sense to each other. So I would say definitely not top down. I would say more within co-creation, but filling out the how. And sometimes we're in conflict, right? I mean, I'm not on the sales team for chocolate bars, but it was an heftige discussie, an intense discussion this year about raising prices for chocolate, keeping prices the same, doing a price cut. Tony's is a more pricey bar on the shelves in a year of inflation. Not everybody's always on the same page, but that you have to duke it out how you get to the vision and the APIs there.
And then Joka, you mentioned that the 4 of you formulated goals, but do you then also, you say, okay, so me, Joka, this is what I'm going for this year, or is it my team is going for this particular goal? How do you do that?
Yeah, our team and how it contributes to. So we have our even for Tony's Open Chain, we have a very clear vision of what we want to do, how much we want to change, and then it's a question of how are we going to fill that in and how can we support each other.
Yeah, and then in your really personal evaluation or performance review, or however you want to mention it, do you then also define an individual contribution to Tony's mission?
Yeah. That part again, and I thought Douglas was so smart to articulate that. On the I'm middle management. It's a wonderful place to be. That means you have people reporting to you, and you have to report up. And it is important that you're not just reporting on what your team has achieved, but how it relates to what other teams need to do. You have to have that link, or otherwise you're just all chickens running around. It has to have you have to have cohesion there.
Yeah, sounds good. Mattia, do you have another question that you oriented?
Another question came in. Another question came in the meantime. I was also thinking myself, I would be interested in hearing a bit like the perspective of a company like Shape on these same challenges. If Grégoire has some input on, what are the challenges? Is everyone on the same page? How do you go about decision making and these kind of topics? You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, setting the goals is not an easy one because it's like really not directly related to operations. I mean, saving water is related to the performance of our customers, so we don't always have a clear grasp on what can we actually achieve concretely. So we really try to have as much lever as possible and set like a goal that would be reasonable. But there is a lot of discussion. Some people agree, some people don't agree. Some people find it too ambitious, some people less. So it requires discussions and yeah, it's not easy. But this is also why this bi-weekly cadence allows us to sort of review and adapt and set like a proper pace, I would say, to everyone. I mean, challenges. We all have challenges. My biggest challenge today is like getting my customer really understand the importance of getting to that goal of saving water. Like in 2030, we have those SDGs goal and targets, and I'm like, guys, I mean, I know electricity is expensive, but water, I mean, you need to work on water even more today than later. It's super important. I mean, we're in the driest winter over the last decade. It's definitely a problem. So I would say this is my my biggest problem, is to get the mindset of the property manager a bit more towards the sustainable management of buildings rather than just the financial management of buildings. Which is part of our mission, is really to educate, to get people understand how important it is to move forward. Yeah, and otherwise, I mean, operationally, like I would say, yeah, the decision making, as I said, is crucial. So having that base of making sure that we always set a goal and move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And Grégoire, you said educating our customers as well is really important. Do you have an impact metric or something that you have on that? Like how many people or facility managers or whatever the role is that you most encounter, for whom it's most relevant to understand the problem regarding water scarcity?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, or it's directly related to sales, basically. The more we can have customers that actually do measure the water, do something about the water consumption, the better. And then, of course, the other KPI is to get them not only monitoring it, but then fixing the problems. So those two KPI together, you basically monitor their engagement and their efficiency.
Yeah. Okay. And I think when companies start working with the B Corp framework and working towards the B Corp certification, there's also a growing awareness that sustainability is not just about like green and recycling, etc., but it's so wide, and you get then this holistic vision of sustainability. And in a lot of questions, you literally see social and ecological, or social or ecological. So I think for Shape, it makes sense to have more of an ecological focus. Because saving water, that has a clear link with ecology. Do you also have social goals or social impact metrics within Shape?
So we try to have as much as possible some gender balance. That's true. We also have like a very diverse type of people at Shape. So the fact to be in Brussels is of course very easy, because recruiting people all over Europe, they're all here. You know, like through to the European Commission being here, you have like different nationalities and stuff. So we have a very wide, big diversity in the team, which is great. But we don't have like a clear, you know, social engagement, I would say, apart from, as I said, I mean, recycling devices, making sure that they're eco-friendly, but also, of course, on mobility targets, we try to be very conscious, measuring our CO2 impact as a company. But again, that's ecological. So I would say social, not much, to be honest, at this stage. Just making sure that from a governance perspective, we're inclusive, and we take everyone into account.
Yeah. Okay. And if you think of the governance impact area, I don't know how front of mind the B impact assessment is for you, because not unlike me, you probably don't work in it every day. But is there any particular topic within governance that you really have a wish or desire or ambition to improve on? Well,
I think it's really like more like in our user terms and like from a legal perspective, kind of binding more the company toward the company, but also the customers to this impact. Because I told you, I mean, today this is the most difficult, is to get them, change their behavior. And of course, it's all good for them, because if they change behavior from a business model perspective, we would sort of incentivize them more, because they would pay less for the service. But on top of that, I would like to have like a legal commitment on that, so we can be stronger on that.
They can be kept accountable and held accountable as well. Yeah.
In a way, yeah. So that would be fantastic, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the first thing I can come with. But of course, I mean, it's been a while since I was in the impact assessment. It's been a year now, so I don't remember all the dimensions there. But
yeah,
I think
but there's still some
on decision
steps
making,
you want
definitely.
to take.
On decision making, definitely, we also want to tie the decisions towards impact. And as I told you, I mean, with a board that is more oriented towards financial efficiency, it's always a bit fighting back and say, hey, yes, but there is also the impact. Yeah,
then maybe repetition is key there, right? Just keep repeating that mission, coming back to it every time. Joke, any desires at Tony still, when you think of governance and all the processes and the system basically that it consists of? Is there anything that you feel like, yeah, we can still grow in here or take some steps, improve?
Yeah, Tony's is growing a lot. It's been around for 17 years now. 3 years ago, we were invested in by outside investors, so no longer privately owned. Who knows what the next few years is going to take. And I think the thing that we're all wrestling with and thinking about a lot, and really inspired by our fellow B Corp, Patagonia's example, who is ultimately the actual shareholder of Tony's and who benefits when we grow. And how can we hold our impact, our mission super central to what we're doing, and who gets to pull on the bell when we go off course. So that's something, watch the space. It's something that we're working on. And even there, in terms of however you safeguard that, there was a question about diversity and representation. That's really important. And, we struggle with being a very, honestly, kind of a very European Dutch company, even though we're available globally. But if you look at our leadership and who we are, it's still very Dutch, very British. But then with our main stakeholders really being West African smallholder farmers, it's not just a matter of putting a smallholder West African farmer on a board and calling diversity done, right? It's also the ability for such a person to speak up on a board, feel safe to protest. What safeguards are there for that? So when you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, representation, it's really about trying to find equal footing and finding the right. So those are things that I'm, certainly very invested in and looking at right now for both Tony Sugar Lonely and Tony's Open Chain, and how our mission allies engage with us and how we engage with our partner cooperatives on the ground.
Yeah, thanks. We'll closely follow your steps. I think, I'm not just speaking for myself. I being respectful of everyone's time here, I would actually like to give the floor back to Jente or Mattia to close it off. Well, thanks for my part. Thanks everyone for being here. Grégoire, Joke, thanks a lot for sharing some of your insights on how you bring this into practice and how governance is an important topic within your companies as well. If you have further questions, I think we'll stay a little bit longer so you can still ask some stuff in the chat. But for now, I'm giving back the mic to you, Jente.
Thank you. Yeah, because I saw there was another question for Joke in the chat, but maybe you can just address it in chat as well. So I can quickly share my screen for the closing words. Just sharing some interesting resources with all of you that might be interesting. I won't go through all of them because you will receive the slides, so you can just take a look at it in your own time. But we have some nice resources to really help you improve your impact and also to help you communicate about your ongoing efforts in an authentic way. And then some events you might want to be at. We're actually organizing a lot of events because, as some of you may know, March is B Corp month, which means a lot of communication about the B Corp movement, a lot of events about the B Corp movement. So very exciting. We have linked all of them so you can register. But then specifically for this new series, we're continuing it with an environment masterclass on April 20th. And then the next one will be on community in somewhere end of May. We'll follow up with customers, and we'll end everything in July, just before the holiday break, with a masterclass on workers. So we'll hope to see a lot of you there. And I'd like to thank Lieselot once again, and Grégoire and Joke for joining and sharing their best practices. And I hope you had some valuable insights. So hope to see you soon. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we will send you the slides.